Mr. Ziegler.
Can everyone hear me? Can everyone hear me?
What?
Okay, good. Am I overdriving this?
I'm managing.
Thank you. Okay. Well, welcome back. Hope everybody had a good lunch. Thanks for showing up today. And I feel very privileged that I am Jeff Welton's warm-up act. Okay? Well, anyway, today we're going to talk about EAS in general and the Nebraska State Plan update, as well as some things that are coming down the pike, one of which hit this morning that you're going to enjoy. Or how I learned to stop worrying and love EAS. If you can tell, that came from Dr. Strangelove. I stole it. Anyway, history of recent U.S. alerting. Conrad, everyone was talking about. Control of electronic radiation, 1951 to 1963. We had tube gear, and even though it didn't like changing those frequencies, it did anyway. Then we went into the emergency broadcast system. It worked, had its limitations. Then we hit EAS, that we all love today. Case of attack, 640 or 1240. Like used to be on all the slide rule radios in your cars.
That's right.
And this is a Conrad equipped transmitter, RCA BTA5T, and right there are the frequency switches. That was my backup transmitter at KSAL in Salina, Kansas. And I will tell you, it was the sweetest sounding AM transmitter I've ever had. Those were beautiful. Okay.
You got to give it a kick.
Okay. There we go. Okay. The EBS red envelope. That was in all stations. They were good for 3 months. This one was good for July, August, and September 1973. I have one pinned to my bulletin board in my office, only it's now a pink envelope. It is so weathered. So, there we go. Now, history of recent learning continued. The FCC came up with the Broadcast Station Protection Program. How many of you have those facilities still in your transmitter sites? Anybody? There you go. KRVN still has theirs. They were equipped so that AM stations would survive a nuclear attack and keep transmitting. I opened up the BSPP site at KVGB in Great Bend, Kansas. After a month of off and on hitting the hinges with oil so I could get them open and not break them. And I walked in there, everything was just as they left it in the 60s. There was about 3/16 covering of dust on the floor, and mine were the only footprints. But everything was still there. None of it worked. It'd been cut, the wires had been cut years ago, but they were still there.
Find any of the civil defense barrels and stuff?
No, none of that was there. There was a hole in the floor that went down to the ground, and I think I know what it was, but I didn't explore it too much. Then, that was getting expensive. Not only upkeep, but putting them at so many stations. Also, FM was coming into the, getting real hot right then. And so the FCC backed out of it. They let FEMA take it over, and FEMA looked at it and said, why are we doing this to all these stations when we can just have a select few and super serve them? And that's what they did, and they came up with the primary entry point system. It was thought it was come up with in the late 70s. They started building in the 80s. There were 33 original stations, and in the last 6 years, they have added to now 77 stations and 3 satellite stations. Okay, that was standard BSPP equipment. There are a lot of those that were in places. You had the old Maggie, reel-to-reel, little 3-channel mixer, the patch panel, little turntable over to the side, that microphone that is now drooping down, and the phone that's up there. And this is how I walked into it the first time I saw it.
And what was in the record collection to play?
What was in the record collection? I am glad you asked. Nothing but Hawaiian music. You know, and here we are in the middle of Kansas. And the world's ending. KSAL was a...
Ukuleles.
Yeah. It was going to be ukuleles. KSAL was a pop station. They played all the popular hits at that time. And we were all going to go out in a blaze of glory. Listen to Hawaiian music. Okay. Sometimes you just scratch your head. Well, and KSAL was real close to Schilling Air Force Base. That was just on the west side of town, so it was a target. Okay, this is an example of PEP equipment today. Fuel tank, 2 buildings, one with a studio, one with a generator. We have the really cute concertina all the way around and an 8-foot fence. And those stupid rocks. You can twist an ankle in those rocks in a heartbeat, trust me. But that's what PEP equipment looks like today. Okay, what exactly is EAS? It depends on who you ask, the FCC or FEMA. The FCC, and up here it says Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau. That is who is over EAS at the FCC. It's not the Media Bureau or any of those. It's PSHSB. It's an involuntary system for broadcasters to distribute EANs, period. That's why it was conceived. That's why it is kept up, is so that in case other forms of communication are down in either the entire country or large portions, the federal government can still continue operation through the PEP stations. That's why on 9/11 we never lit the PEP stations up, because everything else was working. The TV networks were covering everything wall to wall. It was more important that the president stay in control and stay out of the way, which he did. And that's why there was no EAN on 9/11. Okay, state, local, and tribal alerts are a secondary service. They are secondary to EANs, but the federal government said, yes, let the states use this system. Not only will it give them practice, it'll make sure everything stays up for when we really need it. So that's why we do that. WEA is not part of EAS. The two are completely separate. And it's a voluntary system for the cell phone companies, and they get all of their alerts through the iPause aggregator, which we'll look at here in a little bit. And remember, the FCC only has jurisdiction over those entities that hold FCC licenses. During these congressional hearings, we had senators and representatives asking the FCC why Hawaii did what they did. It's not Hawaii, it's not the FCC's problem. The FCC has nothing to do with emergency management. All we do is carry the freight that the originators make. And then I just ran into this on FCC Report and Order 1839, which we'll talk about in a little bit. SECCs grew out of a 1963 executive order. And at that time, the Commission provided SECCs with templates for state EAS plans. How many of you were engineers in 1963? Where are our templates? Did you ever see them?
Never saw it.
Okay. So that one came out of the last year or so. A number of people have really questioned why there are SECCs and what is their authority. And so in the latest, one of the latest report and orders from the FCC that came down this summer, they had that little blurb in there. So that's, I guess, supposed to satisfy us on that. Okay, FEMA. Definitions. Integrated Public Alert and Warning System. It's the name of the office at FEMA that is tasked with public alerting. This is the Al Kenyon, the Manny Centenos, Antoine Johnson that you may have seen on some of the congressional hearings if you watched them. That's those people. MPWS is the National Public Warning System. That's the new name for the Primary Entry Point System. And the NPWS is designed to be the final survivable component of national as well as state, local, and tribal alerting. That is, again, goes back to a few sites super served to survive. And that's what they are for. They are for when everything else is down the tubes, these will still be on the air. EAS is used as a catch-all alerting term. In those congressional hearings, they were using EAS for everything, from national weather to cell phone alerts, everything. And so the general public doesn't understand the difference between EAS and the rest of it. They shouldn't. They don't need to. That's for us to do. The best one I heard day before yesterday was somebody was complaining to iPhones that they were getting so many of those amber alerts for flash flooding. Okay? Yeah, obviously the public doesn't care, okay? But we need to know the difference. Okay, we've all seen this 10,000 times, at least I have. The FEMA IPAWS Alert Aggregator. Alerting authorities, local, state, territorial, tribal, and federal. Federal is NOAA and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, which does the Amber Alerts. Goes into the server farm. Then it comes out to either the emergency alert system, the wireless emergency alerts. NOAA has collect internet services, web apps, websites, social media, digital signage. State, local, unique alerting systems, reverse 911, subscription mass notification, RBDS, and even outdoor sirens. And then future technologies. I've been hearing rumors ATSC 3.0 might have a little something to slide into that last thing there. Okay, now we're done with that much history lesson. We've got one more coming here. The Nebraska State EAS plans. First of all, let me show you where the SECC is in the scope of things in the state of Nebraska as far as authority. State Homeland Security Director is Lieutenant Governor Mike Foley. Under him is NEMA in communications. This is just communications. And then the Nebraska Public Safety Communications Committee. A number of organizations are on that committee. Fish and Game EMS, NEMA, Office of OCIO, the Office of whatever in the state. Can't think of that right now. Just the State Association of County Commissions, State Patrol, State Sheriff's Association, they all have representatives on this because they deal with not only two-way radio, but computer, interconnection, just a ton of stuff. And then the Nebraska State Emergency Communications Committee is a subcommittee of that. What being a subcommittee of the NPSCC does is it gives us this right here, the Public Policy Center representative, who is our secretary. And Quinn is the one that keeps our minutes. He sends out notices. He's the one we send stuff to get on the website. Just all of our clerical services, which we sorely needed, the NPSCC gives us as a subcommittee. But you can see Jim Skinner is TV, Phil Brown Cable, Troy Harris at NEMA, Captain McCoy at NSP, Al Kraus is our vice chairman. He'll accept tips on the way out. Brian Smith, I think, is still the warning coordinator at the Valley National Weather. He's the state warning coordinator at Valley Weather. Jim Tim here at the NBA. Paul Johnson, Douglas County Emergency Management. Quinn Lewandowski and myself, and I also represent the radio and PEP interests. Okay, the history of Nebraska state plans. Everybody remembers the 2007 plan. We were on it forever. That was never approved by the FCC, but we needed a plan. It was widely disseminated, so it just de facto became the working plan. We tried a new plan in 2010. It was submitted in 2012, and it was abandoned because it was never approved by the FCC. Then, starting in 2014, the FCC had a little change. They got an admiral in charge of Homeland Security, Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau. And he wanted all the state plans approved. He wanted them all approved by the book. Being a Navy man, he did things by the book. Understandable. Trouble is, there wasn't a book. Basically, in the past, there'd been two people that looked at the plans, went over them. If it met all the criteria, they approved them. One of them retired. The other one didn't and wasn't going to take on that responsibility by herself. So they sat there. And they sat there. Okay, unable to find us a plan in 2014. Also in 2014, the SECC made some much needed changes to the 2007 plan because it still had TV as a monitoring source. And after the digital transition, that went away. Did some other cleanups just because we needed to make the plan work. 2015, the FCC asked for new plans from all states to be approved. We submitted a new one in March. In 2016 then, other state plans are being approved starting in April. And during this time, there is another association. I speak acronym fluently. It's called NASBA, National Association of State Broadcast Associations. They, every February, meet with the FCC, FEMA, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. NAB is there. State Broadcast Association chairmen are there. SEC chairmen are there. Jim's been to one of them. I've been to one of them. At all of these in February, they were pushed, the FCC was pushed to start getting these state plans out. And with the admiral sitting there, that just wasn't going to happen. Well, anyway, the admiral left. And in 2016, state plans started moving through in April. Well, again, we said, where's ours? You know, we had a lot of behind the scenes people going to the FCC in our behalf. Plus we were too. So where's our plan? What's going on? They asked that we resubmit it in February, which tells me they lost it. Okay, finally, last August, I get a phone call from the FCC, Greg Cook. And we talk about the plan that Nebraska submitted. And he had some problems with it. I didn't blame him, I did too. Our LP1 system was not workable. It might have worked if we all held our mouth in the right way on a blue sky day. Maybe. But it had two internet connections. It also relied on South Dakota LPs to cover some of the northeast part of the state. One of our LPs was in the Nations just northwest of Valentine. It wasn't even a Nebraska station. And so I wasn't happy with it, but it was the best I could come up with, having the map on my office wall for 3 years, looking at it every day. How do we make this work? We couldn't. That plan was rejected. During this phone conversation, Mr. Cook asked me, well, why don't you use your PEP stations? I said, you know what, that's a good idea. Let me come up with another plan with those as our second EAN source. All of this is to get a second EAN source, which is required, which we never had. So I did that. I found out that during the day, on a good day, without a lot of noise, it probably worked. Because we have KRVN, which covers most of the state. We had a South Dakota, or North Dakota PEP that could cover the northeast corner. Iowa PEP could cover the east. Kansas City PEP would cover the southeast. Wyoming PEP would cover the northwest. And again, this is all during the day. And Denver would cover the southwest corner. And so when I wrote in, because you have to write a cover letter with each of these you put in there, I wrote, this is fine, this will work during the day, it won't work at night. And so I request an STA for KRVN and all other PEP stations to be able to go to daytime pattern at any time an EAN is sent. Because at night, the eastern, a little more than a third of Nebraska is not covered by any PEP. None whatsoever. And we lose Wyoming, Iowa, and Kansas City. Very fringe get Omaha. But then we all know the noise level in Omaha. So it wasn't a workable system. And when we talked, Greg Cook and I talked again, he said, well, the map says, I said, the map is daytime patterns. Look at the nighttime patterns. Oh. So that one got rejected. He says, you got any other ideas? I said, yeah. Give me a little bit. So, full disclosure, as a member of the PEP system, I've also been on the board of directors of PPAC, and I'm now currently the executive director of the National Emergency Broadcast Association, which is the new PEP club, if you will, for everybody. Yep. And so I had contacts at SiriusXM. At one time, the early PEP stations had SiriusXM radios as a backup. The trouble is, they were all custom built. And now, 10, 15 years down the line, a bunch of them don't work, and the semiconductors were specially made for those radios, and they're unobtainium. So we don't use SiriusXM in the PEP system anymore. But it would work for us. It would give us a second EAN source, and it would be completely separated from our first EAN source, which is National Public Radio through the NET radio network. Two completely different sources. And it's cheap. When's the last time you bought a satellite receiver for 70 bucks freight paid? Mm-hmm. But that is why we went to Sirius XM, because it was the cheapest. If you didn't have a Premier receiver, Premier is also a PEP station, a satellite PEP station, as is NPR. So if you have an NPR receiver, if you have a Premier receiver, you can hook those up. If not, hook up a Sirius XM receiver. I did, just to see if it would work. Worked fine, especially when their RMT hit and it went out over KRVN. After telling everybody, make sure it doesn't, what happens? Mine does. Go back into the DAS deck. Oh, I need to change that. Okay. It was fixed in 5 minutes, but anyway, it works. People said it sounded great. So proof of concept was made by accident. Then on 2017, November the 29th, the third plan was approved by the FCC, and at that time became the FCC recognized plan for Nebraska. Since that time, the 2017 plan was approved by the NPSCC in March 8th. We have to have 3 approvals on every plan. We have to have the SECC approve it, we have to have the NPSCC approve it as our oversight committee, and we have to have the FCC approve it. Trust me, the FCC is the hardest one to get. And we had a meeting the week after it was approved by the NPSCC. The SECC had a meeting, and we came up with a compliance date of September 1st to give everybody as much time as possible to get the equipment, get it hooked up, and all that. Then, multilingual survey results in May were to be given to the FCC as an attachment to the state plan, which meant a new state plan. That's fine. We took the time to fix some typos. The plan the FCC has on their site right now has draft copy in red letters right across the top. I did not know they were going to take that and put it on their website, because we'd been making changes so much, I just kept sending them draft copies. Anyway, we fixed typos and cleared up some maybe unclear language. Made some clarifications that Sirius XM RMTs are not to be forwarded. Don't do that. We added the KVNO map because we'd never had them on there in their state relay. They needed to be on there. And we also detailed the state responsibilities, state relay responsibilities, because we never really had that on there either. And it was requested to amplify local emergency communication committees, because in this day of tight budgets, if it's not in writing somewhere, you may not be able to get that committee started and going. And so we amplified what LECCs are and what we do with them here in Nebraska. The new plan has been approved by the NPSCC and SECC, and Greg Cook has called me about it. He called me probably 6 weeks to 2 months ago, just to clarify a couple things. At this point, we're just waiting on it to be posted on the FCC website. Okay, what's in the future of the EAS? Anybody got any great ideas? I can tell you this, it's going to keep changing because there are more committees and things at the legislative level that this thing in Hawaii just really kicked the can. Okay, false alert reporting. FCC Report and Order 1894. If you know you forwarded a false alert, you have to contact the FCC within 24 hours, okay? Now,
So how do you know if it's a false alert?
hang on. Participants are not required to report an alert if they were unaware the alert was false. Obviously, something by the government. But I think it's telling us if you send out a false alert, you aren't aware it's false, we're not going to come and hit you with a fine, okay? Just make sure you can prove you didn't know it was a false one. Also, they never said what a false alert was.
Is this after Hawaii?
Yes. And actually, we're getting to the point where we can make comments on this. Is a false alert like when the Weather Service sends out 3 RWTs? Are 2 of them false? You know?
Or they send a blizzard warning out in the middle of June.
Yeah. Is that a false? You know, what constitutes a false alert they're really worried about? The Bobby Bones incident? Yeah, I can understand that one, where he used actual EAS tones for, I think, an EAN, and it went out on his syndicated radio show. Sure. Zombie alerts, when someone hacks and gets into equipment. Those are false alerts. But I would really like the FCC to say just a little more about it. Okay, alert authentication. CAP alerts. And now we are going to configure our systems to reject all CAP formatted EAS messages that contain an invalid digital signature. You may remember at the start of CAP, FEMA couldn't keep their signatures validated, and so we were supposed to shut them off. Well, now we got to turn them back on. And EAS alerts, time, your boxes need to block alerts that have expired. I think probably 99.9% of them do. Here's where we come into a problem. Some of the add-ons, the digital add-ons for older equipment, may not be able to be upgraded to do these things. So it may require a new EAS box. And again, it's a very small minority of people that would have those. But this could kill those off. Okay, and every year to do the TOR live test during severe weather week, the SECC had to go to the FCC requesting a waiver to use the TOR on that day and a subsequent makeup day. Don't have to do that anymore. Again, there's a caveat to all of this. Anyway, 1 TOR test during severe weather week and only 2 of them allowed annually. And now if you want to make your own PSAs for EAS, you can go to the FEMA website and find some photones that are allowed. I'm sure we'll all run out and do that.
How do you know if they're full tones or real tones? That's broadcast.
They're the ones the FCC has run through the JITIC lab and make sure they don't do anything.
It's a can of worms waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Nobody's getting no difference.
Well, how many of us are going to go out and do PSAs for EAS? Okay. Okay.
We can make an announcement when we run a weekly test.
Okay. 1839 report and order. This is online EAS state plans. SECC governance structure, you saw that. It starts with the lieutenant governor and goes down. Alert origination, header codes, alerting procedures. In December, the SECC is going to have a working meeting where we're going to get all this figured out. Multilingual alerting, that's done. The only thing we'll put in there is changes. Operational areas, relatively simple. Monitoring assignments for the presidential alert, monitoring assignments for state and local alerts, real simple. I like simple. Any local area plans like Omaha has. And then we also submit the state plan for FCC review. Now, all of this I just talked about is not written in stone. During one of the congressional hearings, Greg Cook was talking to someone that was testifying and said, well, do we need to add such and such to this? So it's possible there may be additions or deletions to this by the time we get it. I don't see us doing it as far as getting it online until next year. What happened? Let me, yeah, okay. There we go. Okay, compliance timeframes. 2018 Nebraska State Plan, when accepted by and posted on the FCC State Plan webpage, it will automatically be in effect. There's nothing in it that anybody's going to have to buy equipment for or anything. It's just, this is the new plan, and it'll have the multilingual results in it. FCC Report and Order 1894, which was the EAS rule changes, is still going through the mill. And we have no idea when some parts of them may become active, some may not. We just have to wait and see what happens. FCC Report and Order 1839, which is the online state plan, was published in the Federal Register on August the 2nd. And Monday, it came out that comments on it are due into the commission by 9/10, and then reply comments are due 10/9. That's why I say this isn't written in stone. There could be a lot more, there could be less, who knows? And FCC report and orders must go through varying approval and legal processes. Check all of your sources for EAS news, the trades, NBA letters to members, the EAS Yahoo group, and the ne-eas.org site here in Nebraska. We will do our best to keep the news up there without buying a stock ticker, okay? Because that's about what you need anymore. National Periodic Test, Thursday, September 20th. It'll come down at 1:18 p.m. Central on your cell phone first. 2 minutes later, it'll come in via iPause for what we consider normal EAS distribution. The backup date is Wednesday, October the 3rd, and you must have ETRS Form 1 is due by August the 27th. Okay? And then after that, you'll do Forms 2, and after the alert, you'll do Forms 2 and 3. Just like every year. Okay, now, y'all paid your money to come see it, didn't you? This next one just hit this morning, and I had to stop and make a slide. The DIRS 2018 exercise. FCC will have a DIRS exercise that is, I hit a blank, Disaster Information Reporting System. August 23 and 24, you'll get an email. FCC will send out the exercise activation letter at 10 a.m. on August the 20th Eastern Time on August the 23rd. The first set of reports will be due at 3 p.m. Eastern Time on August 23rd. And they will also ask you to update your reports by 11 a.m. on August the 24th. Now, don't ask me any more than what it says up there, because that's all that came in the email this morning.
What's DIRS?
Disaster Information Reporting System. Every radio station should be signed up on it. And this was 7, 8 years ago. They came out with this.
What about TV?
Yes, any broadcaster.
This is mandatory.
No, well, it wasn't, but they want everybody that signed up for DIRS. What it is, it's a way that if there is a disaster in your area, you can report to the FCC what you need. Do you need diesel fuel? Do you need food? Do you need water? You can then send it into the DIRS, and they will get it back to the people on the ground in your area to try to help you out. It was used extensively in the Texas floods last year, and extensively again Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands. It was used during Sandy.
So what are we supposed to do now? Fill some special report out?
I don't know. I don't know. That I literally cut and pasted that out of the email. I literally did.
This was following Katrina, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, after all the problems in Katrina, they came up with this. And honestly, if we get hit with an ice storm, you know, it would probably go into effect for us. I think it's gone into effect for areas that have had tornado outbreaks, that they've done that. Okay. Questions? Huh?
Devil's in the details, boys.
I have one question. In the old plan, here in Omaha, we still make the statement during our weekly test that we're part of the Omaha operational area number 1. Do we still do that?
Yep. Until you hear different.
Because, you know, in the new book, it doesn't really break out.
And in Omaha, your LECC is pretty much in charge of that. The state plan is for the state. The Omaha has
So
the...
in my studios, I should have both the Omaha plan and the new 2018 state plan.
Well, the 2017 right now.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't get approved till 2019, then it will be the 2019 plan. Okay?
So the 2007 they should come out.
Yes. Yes. Send it to a museum or something.
What
But-
about local primary stations? You guys gonna take those off? I mean, we're not, unless the local area.
The
plan has-
only people that have local primaries in their plans are local emergency communications committees. The state has no LPs. And honestly, I think LPs are probably going to go away, and the old daisy chain is probably on its way out, just because most states used FMs on it, which was fine until everybody and their brother-in-law got a translator, and then their sister-in-law and great-uncle got LPFMs. And I know in Kansas, one of my monitoring assignments was Topeka. Well, it worked until our company put a station out by Larned, which is out west of Great Bend. Hi, sir.
How do you do?
And on the same frequency, and now we were getting from both. Now, imagine that same scenario today with the LPFMs and translators. So I just have a feeling, especially with satellite and IPAWS, we're probably going to see LP daisy chains go away. They're still top of mind at the FCC, but I think that will change when they're found to not be real workable, because there's a lot of states that don't have an active SECC. They have plans. They have old plans, and they've just never done anything with them. They've just called that the plan. Go ahead. Yeah, Val.
I looked at some of these other state plans, and they're just monitoring National Weather Service and their LP1s.
Yeah. That isn't legal,
Okay.
and they'll probably get smacked for it.
Okay.
I had a nice talk with the SEC chair in Wyoming the other day, which is one of 3 or 4 jobs she holds. And I explained this to her, and she said, "Oh, we got to do something." So, yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
sorry,
That's
another
a follow-up, yeah.
So currently, what are our monitoring assignments?
Our monitoring assignments
Minimum.
in Nebraska: National Weather Service,
Okay.
the State Relay, which is the NET
Okay.
or KVNO that best covers your area. And Weather Service is what best covers your area. Okay? So, if the Weather Service has a transmitter go down, you can just go ahead and change frequencies. You don't have to contact me or anything. It's the National Weather Service that best covers your area. So if your normal one's down, go to another one. Yeah.
Of course.
And then you have to have your second EAN source, which is a listenable PEP 24/7.
So that would be KRV and AM if you can get it.
I can't even get it to work right at Lexington at night.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Due to the noise. Due to the noise there on Plum Creek Parkway.
During the day, we can't get KRVS.
No, you can't.
Pretty good in Elizabeth, Colorado.
I'm not saying tell.
Or the XM.
Or the XM or Premier or NPR. If you are a Premier, yeah,
Don't trust Premier.
Okay,
They
readdress
have
it
not
again.
sent a test out yet.
they won't send a test. All it is a
But
tone.
I have very little problems with it, because we're required to have a station that we're monitoring that we don't know works until there's an actual alert, and that becomes a problem.
You know what? I don't disagree with you, but I happen to know that FEMA is over there about every week looking at it and making sure everything's working. So,
But like, what are these guys supposed to do when they go to log?
you know what you do? You listen to it. If you're still getting the tone on it, listen, receive tone. You're covered. Yeah.
Okay, readdress again
Yes.
the order that we have to monitor.
There's no
National
order.
Weather-
There's no order. These are just the ones you have to. There's
What are they? National Weather?
National Weather that best serves you, the State Relay that best serves you, or KVNO, and either a PEP station that you can receive 24/7 and actually get alerts from, and I don't know of one, or Premier Radio if you're an affiliate, NPR Radio if you're an affiliate, or Sirius XM.
All right, forget the LP1.
Yeah, oh no. LP1s ceased to exist as far as the state plan is concerned. If you are in Omaha and they designate an LP1 in the local emergency communications committee plan, that one you monitor.
Yeah, we need to find out.
But the rest of the state, LP1s cease to exist. Yeah.
For bilingual, since the federal government doesn't have a plan for it, is Nebraska gonna have a plan for bilingual?
No. And that's not the SEC's thing to do anyway.
No, but I mean, when they put out their new plan, they did not include the bilingual, because they were still working on logistics on it. They still haven't
No.
sent one out.
Some, like DASDEX and I think Sages, can do text to speech
Right.
in like Spanish. DASDEC can do them in a bunch of different languages because they've been working with different places and coming up with the vocabulary.
I mean, just the written text of it, there isn't one for it.
Yeah. No, that's, at this point, it's up to the individual broadcaster or cable company whether they want to do bilingual, trilingual, whatever. So, anything else? Go ahead.
On the monthly test for XM radio, how do you differentiate that from the other ones so that you don't monitor it?
In my box, and I run DASDEC, so I don't deal with SAGEs at all. In a DASDEC, I have all of Nebraska, Dawson County, and the United States of America, the 6 zeros. And so if an RMT comes down and it's not one of those 3, it doesn't send it. But it does log it, so we can see it.
So it's laid over the ear, like some people.
Yeah, that's right. Those kind of people. Anyway, Val?
Do you hear anything coming down the pike with the bilingual
No.
or second language?
No, because it is such a touchy subject at the FCC. I mean, we've got people out here just literally waiting to make lawsuits. So, yeah.